wanted to keep playing guitar with SDE-3000 prototype unit all night long. It was a total surprise. Long delay, slapback delay, chorus, any type of sound, I can easily recall the patches. It was so early technology, even CD was not released at that time. Digital technology provides clear digital sound, but analog part, we had to make a lot of decisions. We carefully selected resistor, capacitor, transistors, every part based on tone and musical response. So I decided to use guitar for final tuning. To discover true innovator, Eddie Van Halen preferred to use SDE-3000. That is a total surprise to me.
Well, Eddie was many things, but he was a very competitive human being. He was always pushing to sort of outdo himself. He was like that with guitars, he was like that with amps, he was like that with almost everything. If you gave him what he was looking for, the things that he would play would be amazing. You would sit there with your jaw dropped. He was always pushing forward, like innovation in perpetual motion. And he would always look to do better, get more out of the status quo. The rig was a focal point of that. If he felt he could get a higher level of performance or a little more dynamic, whatever the advantage was, he would want to go for it. In the beginning of his career, he was running mono, and then he graduated to stereo. And once he found the wet, dry, wet 3-cab setup, being the only guitar player in the band, that offered him something that he had not had. The size of the sound, the dimension of the sound, the depth of the sound, and the impression of the sound was unbeatable to him.
There are several critical parts to realize SDE-3000 sound. The amps, anti-aliasing filter, even power supply circuit, they are all analog. We modeled such a very critical behavior very carefully. Inside SDE-3000 clock generator, this is analog design and control delay time. This analog oscillator circuit is not 100% accurate. Sometimes that provides some deviation. This unstable deviation gives sometimes very much musical character. So it's totally fascinating and exciting journey to create such a combination of digital and analog, and especially tuning analog sound.
So on numerous occasions, we'd have the rig sounding great, he'd be happy with it, but that old thing about Ed wanting to beat the status quo would sort of creep in. At a certain point, he wanted to see if he could outdo the SDE-3000s. We went through a process for about 2 weeks of just A-Bing other products, SDE-3000, other products, SDE-3000. Some things over the course of his career in his live rig had a place and a time, and then he'd move on. What's interesting about the SDEs is that once they got into his rig, they never left. So what was really interesting about the way that Ed deployed these is that they're mono units. In true Ed fashion, figured out a way to take 2 mono units, create a stereo image, maintain a dry path in the middle, and create a dimension and a sound and a size of a sound that nobody had really created to that magnitude previous to him.
So 40 years later, BOSS reproduced very detailed behavior of SDE-3000. By chance, we had a conversation with Matt from EVH. He wanted to make modern SDE-3000 by using Eddie's delay technique. It was a huge challenge to us to realize their idea. Right now, our latest technology is increasing processing capability. So we offered them to combine two SDE-3000 capability to one small unit. So physical design point of view, we wanted to keep using same design display and push buttons. That is the icon of SDE-3000. I love that display. So.
The idea for the SDE dual delay came about in somewhere around the mid-2010s. We were thinking, wouldn't it be cool to sort of like enshrine this unique way that he used the two delays? And we thought it would be really cool to sort of immortalize his method of using them, joining with a genius like Yoshi and providing a pathway for people to create tones of their own, emulate Eddie's tones, and go beyond in their own direction with their own inspiration. So the result of those conversations that we had led us to getting in touch with Yoshi, because there's a whole new generation of players out there that are not familiar with it. It was at that point that we decided to work together. So no matter what product EVH ever developed, the development process was always lengthy. Ed was a stickler, he was detailed, he was into every aspect of something. This was an extensive R&D process of comparing what we have created in the new unit to the inspiration in the rack.
So Eddie was really my main influence on guitar, and I sometimes even refer to him as my spiritual guitar godfather. So it was really just such an honor and a pleasure to be a part of the team helping to create this pedal. So this is a deep unit, but it can be utilized in so many different ways. In a simple way, guitar straight in, mono out right to the front of an amplifier, or perhaps in a stereo amp rig, or in a wet, dry, wet setup, or even in studio scenarios. So Eddie's original presets are included in the SDE-3000 EVH dual digital delay. The first 4 presets are directly harvested from his delay unit, so that means they're meant to be used with a wet, dry, wet setup just like he had. And by utilizing different but complementary delay times in each unit, a huge, wide stereo spread was created. We did rigorous A/B testing utilizing the new pedal and compared it to his actual units in his rig, and they are identical sounding. EVH presets 5 to 8 are tweaked versions of those first 4 presets, and they're meant to work with more typical guitar rigs if you've got maybe a mono amp or stereo amp setup without the dry center cabinet. We of course recognize that most players aren't going to have a full-blown custom EVH style rig, but they might still want to achieve the incredible dimension and spacious tones that a wet, dry, wet rig can provide. So we've incorporated full wet, dry, wet capability right into this pedal. There's a dedicated center dry direct output as well as stereo left and right outputs for the affected signal. There's an innovative effect loop in the pedal, so if you get your distortion or overdrive tones from pedals, you can patch those in there, or perhaps you've got something like a high gain 5150 head. You can actually patch in the amplifier's preamp then into that loop using 4-cable method. So this will allow you to utilize the pedal's noise suppression circuit, keeping your playing tighter and quieter during pauses. So obviously this is like a rock and metal player's dream delay. When connecting multiple amps to a piece of gear, as you do when you hook up stereo or wet, dry, wet rigs, sometimes ground loops can result, unwanted buzzes and hums. So included in the package are 3 ground lift patch cables that'll help you solve any noise issues you might run into. The pedal's actually switchable between +4 line level, -10, and -20, so you'll be able to integrate it with any amplifier or effect loop setup, or even in professional studio situations. It's an innovative delay that's really unlike anything else on the market. And bottom line for me is it sounds absolutely stellar.
We are very much proud to bring piece of history into the present day.
We started this project with Eddie, and now Yoshi, myself, and a few other people on the team are finishing it.